Hi, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Hudson. If you haven't seen this show before, my name is Art Bergeron. My day job, I'm a law attorney at Myrick O'Connell. But this is not about my day job. It's about my friends Frank and Mary. If you've seen my presentations at the Senior Center, which we've been doing now for about 12 or 13 years, you know that Frank and Mary's goal in life is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if that's in Hudson, that means they want to stay right here. They don't want to move to Marlboro or to San Diego or to any place else. They want to stay home. And so the goal of the show is to help you understand, if you're like Frank and Mary, how you can just stay in your house just forever and stay here in Hudson. So I've got this great co-host, John Parent, who everybody knows John because he's been a selectman now for a long time. I want to say 6 years now. 6 years. To find these great guests to bring on just to kind of talk about issues that may be relevant to you. And John, I think we have a terrific guest today that you found, and appropriate. It's December. This might be really relevant information for folks. Who have we got?
Very good. Thank you very much, Arthur. Before I introduce Joanne, let me just mention that the Assessor's Department itself it is really a vital function for the town of Hudson. 64% of our revenue comes from real taxes, real and personal property taxes. So we really need to have a very accurate, they play an extremely important role in making sure that the taxes are accurate and that the values are accurate. And next week, Joanne and her crew will be giving a presentation on what they found with the values to the Board of Selectmen on Monday night. So without any further ado, Joanne McIntyre has been with the Assessor's Office since 1993. So we can be pretty much assured that she knows what she's talking about. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Arthur. And maybe just to get Joanne going, you can give her a couple of questions.
Sure. And Joanne, thank you very much for doing this. And as I mentioned, before the show, one of the purposes of this show is just so that especially seniors who are, nervous about maybe calling or having a question about these things can just kind of put a face to a position, And so I think this is really helpful. So one of the things we had talked about, before before the show was, can you just talk a little bit about how the assessment actually gets figured out every year? People get this bill and it's got a calculation, of a tax and a rate and stuff, but it's always based on an assessment and it changes over time. Can you just talk about that? And then once we've done that, we can kind of talk about some, abatements that may be, that some seniors may be eligible for and some other stuff. Go in.
Okay, so in order to, we have to get your value. So the value is based on the market. So, but it's not based on the market today. It's based basically a year and a half ago. So we're always in the past. We only value for tax purposes only. And there's a lot that goes into it. It has to be, comparable houses, like Capes being compared to Capes, condos with condos, colonials with colonials. You can't compare a colonial house with a ranch. They just don't jive. And some years, contemporary houses are super high, and then ranches could be really low, or a raised ranch, they could be the one trending on the market. It just goes by how the market is.
So the values depend on the kind of values of comparable houses comparable to yours, and they move around. They can just move around every year and not necessarily exactly the same. You're saying, so it's really, So it's really kind of a constant readjustment. And if somebody were saying to themselves, well, how does she know what's in my house? Is this based on any kind of data that you have regarding these houses? And if somebody wanted to can change that, how would they change it?
So it's based on square footage,
Yeah.
the square footage of your house, the number of bathrooms, add into it. If you have a fireplace, that adds into it. And your land also adds into it. So one person could have a 15,000 square foot lot. Another one could have 2 acres. So that has a lot that goes into it.
And if I had a question about how you're figuring my taxes out, or if I wanted to say, gee, it doesn't seem like that value is right, what would I do?
So you would call the assessor's office. You would talk to me or anybody else in the office, but unfortunately right now it's just me.
Thank you.
So you would call, you could make an appointment. I could go out and check your property out, do a walkthrough. But with COVID right now, I'm a little, people are leery. They don't want me walking through the house, and I don't want to walk through there.
Right.
So, so we would, go over their field card, make sure that everything is correct on there. And then they would file for an abatement. And that you file for an abatement in January. So you have from when the actual tax bills are sent out the end of December till February 1st.
Okay, Arthur, let me ask Joanne a question here too. I'm not sure that everybody is aware that if you go under the town of Hudson website, and then you go under the assessor's office, if they click on online assessments, they can bring up their property and it will tell them exactly what that assessment is based on. In other words, it's going to show the number of rooms, the square footage, number of fireplaces, and all of that good stuff. And that's readily available public information. The second thing that I wanted to mention is we talk about fluctuating values. I think there's one circumstance where the value is going to be pretty much set, and that comes to a brand new sale. So a house may have been valued at, let's say, $400,000 a couple of years ago. Now they go out and they sell that home in today's market for $600,000 versus the 400 from a couple of years ago. Doesn't that 600,000 then become the market value, and wouldn't the taxes be based on that new figure?
Yes, but it wouldn't. So we don't assess, like, if you sell your house for the 600,000, we're not going to automatically assess it for the 600,000 because we have to go by all the comparable homes.
Okay. So if you were in an area that did not have that many sales and the majority of them were valued well below the 600 grand, you would not necessarily get hit with the 600,000 valuation.
Right.
Okay. All right. Okay. See, I thought that was an automatic thing. All right.
Yeah. No. Go by what a specific home sells for. It's all the comparable homes.
Okay. All right. All right. Very good.
That's it. I didn't know that either. That's interesting.
Yeah, because if we did that, that would be spot assessing, and that's illegal. So we.
All right. But if you not to belabor it, but now you got my curiosity out. If
see, he's like me.
It is in fact market value is willing buyer, willing seller. So if it's willing buyer, willing seller, and it's 600 grand, why would that not be the market value?
Because there's other homes. So
all right.
There's other homes that, so if it was a colonial, so other colonials could go for 400,000.
Okay.
Some could go higher at like 800,000. It's just not based on one home.
And I suppose this is a good way to make sure that the buyer and the seller are not trying to manipulate the market by By
Okay.
going on the other side and, valuing the deal lower just so that they can get a lower assessment. That's great that check and balance is in there.
That is a good check. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think of it from that aspect. Yeah. Very good. Okay. Arthur, you have another
I was just
question?
going to say, and Joanne, you were just mentioning that if they were trying to file for that particular kind of abatement, an abatement that's really based on they're saying that they think that the house was valued obviously for too much, right?
Yeah.
Then they have a given amount of time from the date they actually get their tax bill, but they haven't got their tax bill yet, right? So
No.
so that this isn't based on those earlier bills that they got, because those were all
Those are preliminary bills. So the
Those-
first bills, your August and November bills, they're
Right.
estimated.
I get it. And so the bill that they need to be looking at, you're saying, is a bill that will actually come out in December?
Yes, because that's when we have the tax rate set. That's when we have all the new values set, and yeah.
Okay.
By the way, it's a big deal for us over in Marlboro, because the Marlboro, there had always been a certain sense of elitism, because I live in Marlboro. Oh, our values are always higher than Hudson's. But suddenly I'm told that over the last several years that's flipped, and now Hudson values are higher because of your Main Street, because of your great, among other things, because of the Main Street, right?
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful incentive to the local officials here, like, oh, we can do better than that,
Yeah.
It's kind of a constant. So can we talk a little bit now about if I'm a senior
Mhm.
and I'm really wanting to stay in my home, that's my goal. I want to stay in my home, and I'm just trying to figure out, and I know from myself, from doing this kind of work. So I deal with a lot of seniors, and for them, often, the tax bill is the second biggest bill next to their food. It's a big deal, right? And so if they're wanting to stay home, can you just talk about what kind of potential remedies they may have, what kinds of abatements there are available? And then could you spend a few minutes, talking about the so-called tax, the tax deferral program?
Okay, so there are exemptions in place. So we have a widow's exemption. That one, you can't have more than $40,000 worth of assets, and it's $175 off your taxes.
Right, and that's not more than 40, not counting the house. Not
No,
counting
you're included.
Right.
Yeah. There's the over 70 exemption. So for married people, you can't make more than $30,000 a year, and you can't have more than $30,000 in assets. That's combined for a married couple. For a single, you can't make more than $20,000 a year, and you can't have more than $28,000 in assets. So that includes money in the bank, CDs, stocks, IRAs, all that.
Yeah, and if you qualify for one of those, what is the abatement?
It's $500 off your taxes.
I see.
Let me see. There's veterans. There's all sorts of veterans. So if you're below 100% disabled, you can get $400 off your taxes. If you're 100% disabled, it's $1,000, and then there are other ones. If you're paraplegic, you're fully exempt from taxes.
Oh,
I see.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then there's a hardship clause, clause 18, and that the board votes on. So you have to be aged, infirmed, and what's that word? I can never remember the word. You can't have a lot of money. So
Right.
that one, yeah,
Oh,
that one,
indigent or,
yeah.
okay.
So regarding, I'm just wondering regarding, just two questions regarding most of them. So there's actually a fixed dollar amount for the abatement. So it makes no difference what your taxes are. You just get a fixed amount that is off. And regarding the last one that you just talked about, right? Do you find people who do apply for that? Because once again, I'm thinking about, and from your experience, this is a question for the whole Board of Assessors to vote on, right?
Yes.
And this is case by case. you just kind of talk about what, obviously you're not talking about particular, people, but about cases that you've seen in the past where the board has been sympathetic to that kind of abatement request.
Yep. Yeah, we have a few of them that we do. And it all comes down to the money and, and what they have and what they don't have and what's going on. It's really case by case. And that one, they do not have to pay the money back.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Joanne, is there also I don't know if it's money off the taxes or if they in fact receive dollars, but I know there's a work program.
There is.
Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
The senior work program, I don't have too much to do with that part. I think seniors work 100 hours and it's like $500 off their taxes.
I was going to say, I thought it was $500 off the taxes. And I know for a fact that we do have individuals that work in town hall that would apply or qualify, for that. Okay. All right.
And that's a great program also, except I would assume that, obviously town hall is closed right now. So there might be a lot of bummed out people who can't do their work off this year. Right.
The other thing, Joanne, that I'm not going to go into great detail on it, but there's a state program as well through the state of Massachusetts. And it's a credit that you can receive on your Massachusetts taxes. I was a volunteer tax preparer for the AARP program for 5 years and worked out of the senior center during tax time. And that's something that I want to make sure that seniors are aware of. And without going into great detail on it, you have to be at least 65, at least one person in the household at 65. And then it's a matter of the percentage of your income versus the amount of your taxes. So if your taxes exceed 10% of your income and you meet the other income and age qualifications, you can get actually up to $1,000 a year as a credit, not an offset. So if you pay absolutely no taxes at all, you're eligible to get a check, or a deposit for $1,000. And that is possible for renters as well. And they base that on 25% of your income with the same criteria. So that's another way that if your income isn't that high and you're paying, a heavy amount in property tax, you can get a credit on that. So just
John, that's a great point. We should probably look to do a show like right around, like maybe in March, to kind of reemphasize that, just to talk about taxes in general, and maybe invite somebody like you were, one of those AARP volunteers, right?
Yeah.
Just talk about
that. That'd be a great idea. I did both Marlboro and Hudson, and it's amazing the number of people that do become aware of that. And of course, once they become aware of it, then they come in every year.
Right.
And in general, a lot of these folk really don't have to file taxes at all because of their income. But if they want to partake in this program, they have to file both with the IRS and the state, and then they're eligible to get the dollars. So if they go through the AARP program, that's completely free, strictly volunteer. So it's a good benefit.
That's a great idea. So Joanne, I know I'm in charge of watching the time, so I want to be focused on it. But could you spend a few minutes just talking about the tax deferral program? Because I think that many folks are just, kind of unaware of that possibility, and it can be, once again, I had a wonderful couple that lived in Hudson, and the husband was taking care of the wife, and they were living on, Social Security and stuff. and their goal, they've been living in the house for 50 years, you know, and the notion and being able to, you know, look at a way of just being able to stay in their house was a big deal for them. So can you just talk about that a little bit?
Okay, so the tax deferral. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. Do they have a mortgage? You know, 'cause, I mean, I have questions. So if they have a mortgage, in order to do the tax referral, they have to get permission from the bank.
From the bank, right.
Yeah.
And so that automatically takes out most people. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we can defer your taxes. So, and then once they either pass or they sell the home, if they don't pay it within a certain amount of time, the interest for all the years that they've deferred goes up to 18%.
Whoa.
It's big. It's big. So, and I mean, and they can only defer up to, I'm pretty sure it's half the value of their home. So once they've done that, then they go on and they'll have to pay their taxes again.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But
That could
it's,
be some substantial dollars.
yes. And you know what? I know that the state basically sets these kinds of minimum criteria and says, you know, you can set whatever rate you want below that, but that the state has a rate. If I recall correctly, the state rate is either 6% or 8%. But do you know, does Hudson have any special, you know, do they charge less than the required state number? Have they done anything to modify the state number? No.
No, I think it's 6. I want to say it's 6.
Yes.
Okay.
But and once again, if folks are interested in just talking about that and trying to figure it out, they should be talking to you in the assessor's office.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's a vote by the board also.
Right. Right. But I just wanted to mention it, you know, because I realize for many people, you know, they've had their houses all their lives. They just want to live in their house until they die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, certainly they want to leave something to their kids. But
Right.
I try to emphasize to them, you know, this is when the house gets sold, the taxes will get paid, you know, and so it's not like the town's going to take the house, you know, the house is going to get sold, the taxes will get paid, you know, it's not like, you know, you're not giving anything to your children. You know?
Right. Yeah.
Good. No, it's good to know.
This has been really, really useful. This has been really useful. Any other questions, John, before we
No, I just want to thank you, and I appreciate it very much. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. See you Monday.
That's right. You guys are you're setting the rate and doing all of that stuff.
Yep.
So folks, you know, the point of this show is to give you options, right? You know, so Joanne is there. If you've got questions, just talk to her. I mean, you know, she's just, you know, she's been here forever. She knows all the rules. If you've got a question, she's not there. She's not there to keep you from getting your abatements. She's there.
No,
She's there to help you get your abatements, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
And John, I think this has just been really useful. I think it's really kind of one of the key purposes of the show. So thank you very much for convincing Joanne, who you said was very hesitant about coming on to take her time to do this. So we really appreciate it. So thank you, Joanne. Thank you, John, for being willing to do this. And folks, I hope you enjoyed this show. If you've got any, Joanne, can you give a phone number that people could call?
Yeah, it's 988-568-9620.
Great. So if you've got questions, she's the person you want to talk to. So folks, I hope you've enjoyed the show, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Hudson. Stay safe.